Can you talk us about your mix bus?
I had several mix buses.
Mm-hmm.
I have found over the years, because of the need for stems and all kinds of things, the best and most effective use of my time is to have like staged mix buses. My first main mix bus is five buses, which are called VB, which is vocal bus, DB, which is a drum bus. What's the next one? BB, which is the band bus. OB, which is the orchestra bus. And then MB, which is the effects bus. So those then are delivered to the stereo mix bus, or in the case of 714, the 714 mix bus.
Mm-hmm.
From there, the stereo version and the 714 version diverge quite a bit. The stereo version of the mix bus goes through a process that I've developed over the years based on Blumline stereo work back in the 30s. Blumline came up with apart from being a terribly brilliant man, and developing all these concepts, he talks about stereo and he says, the one thing about stereo is the phantom center is very inaccurate, especially at higher frequencies. And he said the main reason for that is the lower frequencies, when they come to the left and the right ear, they're relatively identical in time. But when you get to the higher frequencies, because the wavelengths are so long, but at around 800 hertz or so, the wavelength equals the distance between the two ears.
Mm-hmm.
And now the wavelength is getting shorter and shorter. So even though the bass signal may arrive here pretty simultaneously from the left and the right for the phantom center, when you get to 10K, what arrives here and what arrives here can be 5, 6, 10, 20 samples off. So suddenly they don't integrate as well. So your phantom center starts becoming smeared at the top. Mm-hmm. So I go through a process in stereo where I break the frequencies up into 4 bandwidths, and from 800 hertz to 10K, I start narrowing the stereo image. So that by about 12K or so, I'm about 30% in from what I am at the lower frequencies. It may be bullshit. It may be my just hearing what I want to hear. But every time I try to eliminate that process and go direct, that powerful center goes away. So I just use it. That's it. It's part of what I do. It's one of the few things that I do. Anything stereo gets that treatment. And then in the mix bus itself, I'll start out with some type of, I'll just listen to the mix. And if I think it needs a little EQ, I'll start with an equalizer. Usually I go to an EQP Pultec or a Neve 1073. And or an API, most of these are UAD emulations, and so I love them. They're so fantastic. So even though I'm mixing in digital, I'm using some analog processing. Not processing, analog emulation. Okay. Then after the equalizer, I'll probably add a compressor. I may not use it, or I may compress so slightly that you hardly notice, or I may slam it. It all depends, as I'm working on the mix, what I want to do. That almost invariably is the George Massenburg multi-band DRC3. I got to say, the most incredible compressor on the planet, and not just that George is my friend. I get no money for this. But anybody that doesn't have it is losing out on one of the best, not compressors ever made, so much as one of the best tools. I mean, for shaping a mix, I can't go into it enough. It's very confusing, as George's shit always is. You know, he's one of those Musk characters, who just think differently than the rest of us, and they're getting information from the ionosphere or something, and sometimes it almost always translates into something brilliant, but sometimes translates into something a little difficult to intuit. But incredible compressor. Got a lot of knobs. You can just tune, you can make it sound analog, digital, whatever you want. It's just phenomenal. So that will be my compressor. And then I may take the EQ that I added before the compressor and duplicate it after the compressor, and then compare, do I like it before? Do I like it after? It will sound different. So basically, that's my mix bus. Mm-hmm. Now, in stereo, I go to a second mix bus where I do more compression and more equalization, which is, so that will be called the mix bus, M, whatever the mix number is, M25. Mm-hmm. Then that goes to XM25. And on that bus is a device I love so much, is the Abbey Road TGM box. Mm-hmm. And it's got compression, it's got EQ, and it's got compressor, EQ, and then, side chains. Anyway, it's a phenomenal box. And it's one of the most analog sounding digital tools I've found. I'll put that on the mix bus, the secondary mix bus. And again, because that has an equalizer and compressor, that's generally all I need. If I need to still tap some peaks, then I'll add a brick wall limiter just for, mm-hmm. tapping down the peaks. And generally I use the Waves L3. Mm. So and the reason for the two buses is I have found that although I'm mainly mixing from the main mix, I'm constantly want to hear it in a more mastered situation. I may be mixing at -18 for the stereo mix, but I want a -11 or -12 for what I send to the artist. So I print these both simultaneously and go through the secondary phase where I increase the volume and may do a slight, it's like a mastering. Mm-hmm. So, but those are printed simultaneously. So when I finish, I have a mix M and a mix XM.
To watch the full video, click the link below and don't forget to subscribe.